Alright, look. Starfield is a big game with so much to do that it's frankly overwhelming, and once you're past the introduction, the game leaves it up to you for where you want to go. And that freedom is exciting, but it comes with the potential risk that the direction you decide to wander could be really f***ing boring. I'm not joking when I say that my opening hours had me doing thrilling missions like buying someone a coffee, delivering a pair of boots to a space station, and wasting my precious star fuel to get someone a beer.
Would you mind grabbing me one of Jake's stouts?
Alright! I'm a delivery boy!
I would like you to avoid my fate, because there is fun to be had in Starfield. You just gotta know where to look. So we present to you a spoiler-free list of some of the recommended quests and activities to get you right to the good stuff. Let's start by addressing the main story. Conventional Bethesda wisdom would tell you that the main story is by far the least interesting part of any Bethesda game, and you're better off ignoring it. And in this case, the GameSpot staff is actually pretty mixed on the whole thing. Some really do enjoy it, but others find it to be boring. So boring in fact that they walked away or outright ignored it, which ended up being a detriment for reasons we'll get into. We think it's worth at least trying it in the early hours to see if you like it. Plus, it does have some benefits for first-time players. It's a great introduction that takes you a lot of all the major locations and settlements throughout the galaxy. There's also the Lodge, which is the main place for operation for Constellation, the group you join in the main story, and they offer early game access to things like benches and research stations. Plus, the first couple of missions get you several companion characters, like my boy, Sam Cole. But even if you're not feeling it and ready to bail on Constellation, we highly recommend you play up to the mission Into the Unknown. At the end of this mission, you'll unlock a new gameplay mechanic that is rather significant. We won't spoil it here for those of you who don't already know, but think of it how like in Skyrim, if one was to ignore the main quest, you would never get dragon shouts. It's kinda like that. Now let's move on to the other major part of all Bethesda games, factions. Starfield has 4 major factions, and surprise surprise, they're some of the best content in the game. We're going to talk about how to find all of them in descending order from greatest to least greatest. And without a doubt, the best faction is hands down the Crimson Fleet. The Crimson Fleet is a massive organization of space pirates, and the questline sees you caught up in the middle of their fight with the United Colonies system defense. While the Crimson Fleet are, quote, the evil faction, players role-playing a more karmically good character are still given a good reason to join up. The quickest way to get this questline going is to go and get yourself arrested over New Atlantis, or be caught with contraband while entering the orbit of any UC-protected colony. If you don't want to commit a crime though, there is an alternative way to start the questline. You simply need to join a different faction, the United Colonies Vanguard. After you complete the first major mission, grunt work, a path towards joining the Crimson Fleet will open up to you. Speaking of, the UC Vanguard is actually the second best faction in the game. Joining is simple enough. You just go visit Mast over New Atlantis and say you would like to serve. If you do follow the main quest, you'll visit here with Sarah. At first glance, this comes across as one of the more generic and dull of the factions. I'll be perfectly honest, I originally ignored this faction thinking it wasn't going to be very interesting. However, the storyline develops into something pretty compelling almost right away, borrowing heavy influence from media like Aliens. It also acts as a great introduction to the world and politics of Starfield, even if it is through the specific lens of the United Colonies Vanguard. There is a lot more to the UC Vanguard than it first appears, and it's definitely worth checking out. Next up is probably the most unique of the factions. Ryujin Industries has you climbing the corporate ladder for the galaxy's largest corporation. Don't let the opening quest of coffee delivery fool you. This time it actually leads to something far more interesting. You'll be dealing with corporate espionage, backroom deals, stuff outside of the typical shooting and looting that makes up most of the game. If you like talking your way through situations, a little bit of stealth, and want more of that cyberpunk space vibe, this faction is perfect for you. The quest is easy enough to get going. You'll likely get your start by hearing an announcement for a job while roaming New Atlantis, starting the quest. Fill out an application form at a Ryujin kiosk and make your way over to the city of Neon, located on the planet of Voli Alpha in the Voli system. The last and therefore least of the factions is the Freestar Collective Rangers. If you're looking to fulfill a space western fantasy, this one is for you. Being a ranger is basically like a space sheriff slash bounty hunter of sorts who travels around the galaxy placing people under arrest. Don't get me wrong, it's still a pretty fun faction. The narrative just isn't as strong or as interesting as the others, but you do find yourself in some crazy firefights that are a ton of fun. So if you're really into the gunplay aspects of Starfield, you'll probably enjoy being a ranger. You also get some nice rewards for this one, including a really good Class A starship at the end of the questline. To get started, head to Akita City. Right when you enter the city, you'll be informed of a bank robbery. Deal with that, and it will lead to an offer to join the Rangers. Outside of factions and the main story, Starfield is still full of random standalone adventures that you can stumble upon throughout the galaxy, and here are a couple that we think are worth seeking out. There are a few things in the early game that immediately impact how you're perceived in the Starfield universe, which is what makes the Mantis quest a must. This is actually a quest you'll find randomly on the bodies of dead spacers. You're looking for a note that says Secret Outpost. Play enough of the game and you'll eventually find this, but if you happen to be following the main story, an early quest that leads you to the Nova Galactic Star Yard is a place where a lot of us at GameSpot happen to find it. Once you read the Secret Outpost note, the Mantis mission will appear. Following this quest will eventually lead you to one of the best early game ships in the game and a set of armor that belonged to a mysterious figure known as the Mantis. This is pretty cool because you will then don the Mantis persona, and people will respond differently to you, especially when traveling in space. We actually have a full guide detailing all the steps for this quest, which you can go check out in our How to Get a Best Ship Early video. An interesting mission that can be tackled early in the game is First Contact. Porrima is a star relatively close to the opening available systems in the game, and likely one you'll jump to in order to get somewhere else, like the City of Neon in the Volley system. When you jump to this system, you'll be immediately hailed by someone on the planet's surface. They will speak of a mysterious ship that you'll be able to see for yourself in the planet's orbit, and detail how not only can they not make contact with a ship, but that it doesn't even seem to be a class of ship that is known, leading to some speculation that it might be an advanced alien race. We don't want to spoil the details of this mission, but it is absolutely worth your time. One of the more fun discoveries you can make in the earliest hours of the game is the Deimos armored transport. In the Alpha Centauri system, which is where New Atlantis is, there's a planet called Bondar, and in its orbit you'll find a ship icon. When you travel to that location, you'll run into a Crimson Fleet ship. Now, if you happen to finish the Crimson Fleet story per our previous suggestion, you're not going to run into any trouble, but we recommend doing this mission before, as it's a lot more fun with combat involved. The reason being is that the abandoned ship, the Deimos armored transport, is having some issues with its power, meaning that its gravity keeps shutting on and off. Once you're inside, you'll be engaged in combat with the pirates. One minute you'll be maneuvering on the ground, taking cover, and the next minute you'll be slowly floating upwards, as well as the elements in the environment around you. In short, this is a fun little adventure with some cool zero-gravity combat and a nice little payout. During your adventures in the settled systems, you might get a quest to go find a distress call in the Charybdis system. Go do this quest. I won't spoil details here, but it is by far one of the weirdest and most out there quests that we found so far in Starfield. However, the Charybdis system is pretty far away from the start of the game, and you're going to need at least 23 light years on your jump drive, which you can obtain through a combination of ship upgrades, perks, or just outright purchasing a better ship. Once you make your way to the system, head to Charybdis 3, and down on the planet you will find some very unexpected and interesting people. Hopefully we've given you a few cool directions to head in the settled systems while you're playing Starfield. This is a massive game, and undoubtedly there are a lot of cool little quests that we ourselves haven't discovered yet. So throw a bone to your fellow space explorers and drop some spoiler-free hints in the comments below. Thanks for watching.